Employees are, you know, they love to be able to get online and see what's happening. Or even they just love knowing they could do it if they wanted to, even if they never did it. They just love knowing it could happen. Okay. Visa interview. I mentioned before I've got some questions, sample questions that you get at the visa interview, and we could kind of go over those later if we have time. Or you can give me your email and I'll send them to you. Checklists, okay? All the previous immigration documents for an L1. All the educational transcripts, diplomas, a passport, resume. Again, the resume should be careful how you craft these applications. If I say in a resume this person has worked, if I say in the petition this guy worked from this day to that day for our company or in that department, and yet the resume is different, we've got problems. You know, immigration might not like that. So I believe that you should carefully reconcile these things before filing an application. Employment verification letters if needed to prove that the guy worked in this department or that date from this day to the other. Tax records could be helpful for that. Pay stubs to show that they've had that 1 year experience with the company. Business card. This is the verification for tax returns, letters, payroll records. Okay, any other things that could come up? Criminal records, all that kind of stuff. They could apply, but not always. Maybe I'm standing in the way for some of you. Proof of termination of previous marriages. Okay, for the company, in this case, if it's an individual petition and you have a blanket approved, instead of giving articles of incorporation and things, like corporate registration documents, you can just give them a copy of your approved blanket petition. Even for an individual petition, you submit that and you don't have to prove all of the relationships between the companies exist properly. Okay, that's just another thing. But if you don't have a blanket, then you've got to go and say, okay, here is company A. This is the corporate registration. This is company B where the guy works. Okay, and he's worked for a year. Now, here's the stock, you know, certificates for this company. You see half is owned by this corporation over here, you know, and you need to connect the dots, you know. Remember when you were little kids and it said 1, 2, 3 and you did the dots and like it made a shape or a picture? Did you ever do that? That's what you do for immigration every day, right? Say, okay, when the picture emerges, L1B, L1A, you know, connect the dots for them. Other documents that the company can show, if it's a smaller company, you can show like a lease that you have, things like this. Like some smaller companies really get trouble. And again, Indian companies sometimes are under fire for these L1Bs because they know the government's saying, you should be doing H1Bs. These are not L1Bs. They're not specialized knowledge. So they often will question the legitimacy of the company in some cases. And so you must show, like, this is a real serious company. Look at the pictures of our corporate offices. Look at, here's our brochure, here's all our other information, and that's fortunately not what most of you will be doing. The last thing would be organizational charts showing the positions where the individual fits into the corporate structure, both in India or wherever they're working now, and where they will be going. So if you're going for executive or manager, it's got to show people underneath, right? There's got to be a pyramid there. Here's the guy. Here's all those people that report to him. Or, you know, if it's specialized knowledge, even I think it's helpful to show that the person is at a level that is somewhat responsible in the company. So organizational charts, and there's a sample or two in our materials, but generally that would just be a diagram that shows the person where they are in a little box and then lines showing who fits in where above and beneath them in the corporate structure. Okay. If the U.S. company has not been in business for more than a year, this can still be done, but generally they would require more documentation, and you'd have to explain why you're sending this person to a new office, to open the office or build business there, whatever it's going to be. Got questions? You're just about ready for lunch, huh? I can taste the naans already. I can taste the curry, yes?
What is the procedure to add subsidiaries to the L1 blanket, approved L1 blanket?
Good question. If subsidiaries are coming, new offices, you're supposed to file amended petition, adding the new offices. Yeah, amended petition. So you would submit again evidence, maybe the new, what I usually submit would be the annual report that shows all the subsidiaries. You could also submit the registration documents for those corporations, and additional documents might be stock ledgers and things showing who owns the company and so forth. But amended petition would usually be the way I think that's done. That kind of leads into the next part, the blanket. Now, since we've covered most of these things already,
Just to,
you want me to just quickly go through? It's coming. L1 blanket, friends. Certain companies qualify for L1 blanket. If you work for one, that means you work for a big company, usually. Okay? A lot of smaller companies don't qualify because they don't have at least 1,000 employees, or they don't have at least 10 L1 cases a year, or they don't have big-time sales of over $25 million. Okay? So you must have one of those 3 things plus 3 offices somewhere. That's to get a blanket. Right? And again, a blanket's nice because you pull it over yourself when it's cold and you feel good and comfortable. You know? It's a nice feeling. Everyone should have a blanket.
L1B visas for 12 months. That is preceding the date from the day we filed the L1 blanket. Right?
Yes. So if one of the ways you're trying to get a blanket is by saying, well, we do so many L1 cases over here. We don't have the big sales. We don't have 1,000 employees, but we do a lot of L1 visas. You would have to show that you had done 12 L1s in the last year. Or I'm sorry, 10 L1s in the last 12 months. And maybe even the year before that. You would just show, look, we consistently do so many of these. Give us a blanket, for crying out loud. We want to pull it over. We want to be warm and cozy too. You know, we want to be like the other guys. Does that answer it? I apologize if I'm too crazy. You know what I mean? A little too wild here, but there's something about talking about immigration that makes me so excited. You know? Maybe you feel the same way I do about immigration. You know? It's the best, right? You feel so good. You're doing something great for, you know, a whole lot of people. It's a happy thing. Again, the benefits. Your dependents as an L1, at least your wife gets to work. Right? Now, I don't know about you, but where I come from, you know what I mean? When this is not really as full as it should be, if there's another source of income going into this, that's good. L1 has benefits. It's got advantages. Expedited green card process. I can't emphasize that enough. That's a really big thing for those L1A guys. Okay, this is something we talked about. L1As for people whose work was and will be managerial. In other words, they can't be a manager here and go over to the U.S. and be like a engineer, just simple, basic person. They have to continue to be managers or executives. L1B, this is sort of a definition of the work. Their specialized knowledge requires the bachelor's degree for the blanket cases. Procedure. This differs, of course, from the individual petition. Why? Do you need to get approval from the USCIS first? No. All you need is that blanket petition, and you can go right to the consulate. Okay? So, the blanket petition, when it's filed, is not for an individual. If you ever do one, at the part of the I-129 that you fill out for who is this for, it's blank. There's no name. It's just for the company. And they approve it. Instead of the approval notice saying L1 or L1A, it has LZ. And you've seen it. You probably have the approval. You send it whenever you go to the interviews and things. But, yeah. That's what they do.